Hello and welcome again to the thejaxis on YouTube for episode 9, which I've called Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Today we'll be discussing light refraction and how we might possibly be able to use it to make large jumps through space-time. We ain't in Kansas anymore, but if we follow the yellow brick road to Emerald City, with just a little bit of brains, heart, and courage, we might be able to find a horse of a different color. Even if we don't like that destination, we just click our ruby slippers together 3 times and say there ain't no place like we'll be back in an instant. And I think that should take care of all the Wizard of Oz puns for now, so I don't feel the urge to do them again later. But I feel like these types of ideas are sort of already inherent within us, and we already sort of understand them in a way. By the means of, in the Wizard of Oz, somewhere over the rainbow means somewhere beyond our reality, somewhere completely different dimension, for lack of a better word. And the way that I sort of think that we can use light refraction to accomplish such things, talk about how we see light refraction on Earth and the way that we see rainbows. And when we see a rainbow, it's instantaneous. Light refraction connects 2 separate points as a bow, and it connects throughout 2 different points on Earth. Now, I believe that when we see a rainbow, what's happening is the light is being attracted to a Lagrange point created by the 2 different poles, the North Pole and the South Pole. So that's a Lagrange point of our magnetosphere. So when we see a rainbow, it's not that's connecting it just points to Earth. It's actually making a halo as we see light refraction and connecting it throughout the center of Earth. And if that's the case, when we see a rainbow, we're seeing light attract to a gravitational Lagrange point. And for anyone that doesn't know what a Lagrange point is, the fact that they repel when you try to place them together. When you do try to put them together, instead of just completely being thrown off, they find balance and they sort of start to rotate around one another. And that's called a Lagrange pointer. That's a smaller scale version Lagrange point. And I believe the same thing happens between the North and the South Pole. And that's sort of why the Earth has the tilt that it has. It's not necessarily just the moon and the moon's gravitational effects on it, which definitely, affect the Earth and its orbit. But I think that a lot of, or the main reason that Earth has the tilt the way it does is because the North and the South Pole are acting just like magnets would if they had opposite charges. It's causing the Earth to rotate like that as the poles rotate around each other. And that creates the magnetosphere, and light attracts to those gravitational Lagrange points created by the magnetosphere. And when we think about that, light and gravity both come from stars, so it doesn't really make sense that light would attract to a gravitational Lagrange point because they're technically the same charge, the same pole, just like the magnets, they should repel each other. But light is also, supposedly not able to escape a black hole. Anyone who's followed me long enough knows that I believe that black holes are anti-gravitational and not gravitational as they've been taught. That's for next episode. But just when we see the light refract and attract to gravity, it's almost as if light is a reversal of that pole that they should be sharing. And this sort of makes sense because, light is attributed to gravity. In my theory, black holes are attributed, and black holes' darkness and anti-gravity are attributed to each other. And when we see light refract into a rainbow, there's this common occurrence I'll share in this slide here where one is literally as if white and black are being separated by color. And that's sort of why I believe that light refraction is sort of not just a reversal of poles, but a convergence of poles. It's connecting, literally 2 polar opposites, white and black, through color. And sort of imagine how we could use this for large leaps through space-time. I want to talk about, celestial bodies like stars that also must have some sort of gravitational balance between each other. And there's an anomaly which happens with triangles in geometry, where each and every triangle, if you divide its angles by 3, and then you take your 3 quotients and add them together, you will 60. And this shows you that there's always an equilateral triangle balanced within each and every triangle. And if there's 3 adjacent stars that all have their own gravitational forces based on the star's density, size, and everything like that, there has to be some sort of manner for which those stars find balance with each other. And I believe it uses the same principle of geometry, just the math is happening between their gravitational forces, which means that there's an equilateral triangle of force, which is almost like a between these 3 stars, and it's created by balance of gravity between them. So if we were able to take refracted light, find that perfect triangulated gravitational Lagrange point, we could theoretically use that Lagrange point to instantaneously take that refracted light, put it through the Lagrange point, and put it somewhere else through space-time instantly, as we see light refraction behave on Earth. Almost like a slingshot, you know what I mean? Traveling from one point to another point in space and time instantaneously by using these Lagrange points and triangulation. Triangulation is the same. We already use this sort of idea, you know what I mean? Epicenters, find epicenters of earthquakes, triangulate cell phone positions. So we already know that this principle of mathematics works very well in the sort of thing that we're talking about. And obviously we're using a triangle, so it's geometry. As we've discussed in other episodes, and many times I've discussed it on the J-axis on Instagram, we're looking at certain shapes. If they're done a certain way, the point in the center can be perceived to be either in the foreground or in the background. And that's sort of how I believe that refracting the light would perceive the shape. So if we're, say, our position is we're right, in the foreground looking at the 3 stars, and in the background there's another star, the one we're trying to reach, that we're using refracted light to travel through the triangulated gravitational Lagrange point, that we could literally bend time and space in the manner of we're making that refracted light believe that it could be either in the foreground or in the background, and that those 2 different perspectives of dimensional space-time are being held together by the gravitational Lagrange point triangulated between them. And it's just sort of a way, when you look at any sort of shape, it needs a plane to exist upon, a higher dimensional plane which to exist upon. Just as light needs darkness and space. Space is literally a dimensional plane for which celestial bodies exist upon. And just as any other dimensional plane can be folded or manipulated, space can be too, if you have the right tools and the right ideas on how to do so. And I believe that this is a foundation for how we can start to take that anti-gravitational plane, which is outer space, which everything exists upon, light, matter, everything else, and we can fold it and bend it to our will so that we can start to be able to do things like make large leaps through space-time, and even one day, time travel or interdimensional travel. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Next week I want to talk about black holes, kind of expound upon this idea a little bit, and the reasons why I believe that black holes are not gravitational as we've been taught, anti-gravitational. Always, I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you haven't checked out the J-axis on Instagram, please do that. Also check out All Corners of the Multiverse. I'm a follower of that page. It's a community page with lots of like-minded, free-thinking artists and poets and a couple different podcasts, streamers, just artistic people who are trying to be guides throughout the spiritual awakening that's happening in the world. So stay tuned for next week's episode.